Welcome to the Kingsburg Community Church podcast, Thinking About Faith. We pray that this podcast helps you deepen your faith in God and stir some inner thoughts about the Christian life.
Hi, everyone. It's Pastor Ed, and welcome to the KCC podcast, Thinking About Faith. We're continuing in our series called UncommonSense, where we're mining the Proverbs and the rest of the Bible for wisdom. Many of these things that have to do with wisdom are not issues of moral right and wrong. It's what I'm calling just good advice, that if you choose the wise way, if you decide not to choose the wise way, it's not necessarily sinful, it's just unwise. And the Bible gives us lots of freedom to make decisions, but if we consistently make more wise decisions than we make unwise decisions, we're going to find that life goes a lot easier for us. Today, I want to talk about something that I'm sure you've noticed has increased, at least over my lifetime, in the public sphere of our culture, and that is conflict. Bible has a lot to say about conflict avoidance and conflict resolution. Conflict happens because we're human beings, and sometimes we disagree, and sometimes we're not at our best. And we're looking today for what the Bible's wisdom might be in situations that could cause our tempers to flare. We all have the ability to be provoked. Some people, their temper is a lot more calm than others, but we can all be provoked, I think, and we want to try to apply wisdom in those situations. If you are a person who's very easily provoked, if you find yourself deeply angry more than, say, once a week, I would again say, wisdom would say, this is not the Bible telling you to do this, but I would say wisdom is, why don't you think about going to talk about that with a Christian counselor? Just because you don't like being angry, other people don't like you being angry, and maybe there are things that you can do, practices you can have, and ways of looking at conflict situations that can help you be less conflicting, temperate, to control your temper and not be in situations like that. But for the rest of us who, occasionally we're having a bad day and we just get angry, or we see something particularly, I know I get fired up whenever I see injustice. When someone clearly is stacking the deck against someone, particularly if it has to do with the strong oppressing the weak or being unfair and unjust to the weak, it just makes me fire up. And so the Bible has wisdom for us. First, the Bible counsels us to seek to be calm even when we're provoked. Proverbs 14 says, whoever is patient has great understanding, but one who is quick-tempered displays folly. Someone who's exercising patience in trying situations is more likely to be able to apply things that will remedy the problem, as opposed to someone who's quick-tempered. The Bible says they display folly. It's like trying to put out a fire with a bucket full of gasoline. Generally, a quick temper is just going to escalate the conflict. Proverbs 15, you probably heard this one before. A hot-tempered person stirs up conflict, but one who is patient calms a quarrel. That's a truism. It's self-explanatory. Proverbs 29:11, fools give vent to their rage, but the wise bring calm in the end. And I think if you think about wise people in your life, you'll probably be able to reflect that they were also the sort of people who were not equally provoked, and perhaps you never really saw them really give full vent to their rage. Maybe they were angry, but their anger was under control. Bible says it's all right to be angry, but that we should seek to resolve that and not to vent it. When we talked earlier, we did a podcast called Venting About Venting, and the world has changed since I was a kid. When I was a kid, being mature meant learning to control your emotions, and then the pop psychology of the 60s and 70s told us that somehow it was bad for us if we held our emotions inside. And so the best thing we could do is that if we gave vent to our emotions, then we would resolve that instead of stifling it. And of course, we know that that's just not true. The more angry you are demonstratively, the more you're going to become a rage monster. The more you learn to control your anger, the more you're going to be able to calm and control your anger. Now, anger is natural, and there's such thing as the anger of God. There's such thing as righteous indignation. But most of the rage that we see in the world today does not help fix problems. It's destructive rage. It doesn't really help solve the problem. And we all know that if you've ever raised kids, you know that anger escalates the conflicts, and its potential is to damage relationships, and that's really sad. People who matter to you, if you allow your anger to push them away to where it damages the relationship, that's really too bad. What does the Bible say is a alternative to anger? Proverbs 15:1, again, very well-known proverb. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. A gentle answer, in my experience, takes a little creativity. You can't perjure yourself. You can't lie to somebody to acquiesce to their anger. But a creative person can come up with a gentle answer to their anger. And sometimes my go-to response is to just make an observation. Wow, I can see that really upsets you. It's true. You're not judging. If you say that in a sarcastic voice, it's better not to say it at all. But, if you're talking down to somebody or whatever, but if you're just making a comment, wow, that really upsets you, doesn't it? And then maybe you can say, help me understand why. And, maybe that can slow them down a little bit, and they can explain a little bit about it, and it can soothe a little bit of the anger. And because that white-hot anger is hard to maintain over long periods of time. So if you can get people to talk, sometimes that can help diffuse the anger. Proverbs 25:15. Through patience, a ruler can be persuaded. A gentle tongue can break a bone. There's something about engaging people in humility, but not in a cowering sort of way. My experience is if you cower before somebody who's angry, it just invites them to visit their anger upon you. There's something about, the cowering dog gets hit again sort of thing in the mind of a very angry person. So sometimes if you can just detach a little bit and make those observations. That would be really upsetting if someone, cut me off the way that person cut you off, and you can engage with them. So important is not just what you say, but the tone and the timing to de-escalating people. So when you're trying to, angry people talk fast. I've never known someone with white-hot anger to speak slowly. Maybe it happens once in like 50 times, but usually they're just kind of spewing. And so whatever response, if it's measured and slow, if you just slow down the cadence, if you use a tone that's not condemning or angry back or anything like that, this can be an invitation to de-escalate conflict. Because conflict wants to push against somebody. It's always looking for a fight, somebody else who wants to mix it up. And if you're not that person, that, it also makes you less likely to become a victim of that anger. But also it's an invitation to de-escalate the conflict. I've known people who just have a gift in de-escalating tension. They just have a way of speaking with people that shows I respect you, I'm not judging you, but I'd like to engage with you, as opposed to just, kind of absorbing the blows of your rant. If you're that sort of person, we need more of your gift. So please use your gift in those conflict situations. And I give you permission and encouragement to use your gift. Don't hide it under a bushel, because many people have difficulty even knowing what to say in a conflict situation. They don't have that gift. Again, knowing what to say and not knowing what not to say, so very important. And this is why people who not only have that gift, but have some training in de-escalation, that can be a very, very good thing. The problem that I see is, for example, in the school district, we want to train everybody to do de-escalation, and some people just are not gifted. They're just going to make it worse because they're just they don't even know the tone of their voice. And so you only want to train people in de-escalation who have a gift of dealing with people who are in the heat of the battle. Proverbs 12 says, "Deceit is in the heart of those who plan evil, but those who promote peace have joy." There's a tremendous reward of joy that comes in being able to resolve a conflict situation, to be able to help two parties who think they're at war see that they have more in common than they have dividing them, and that they can actually shake hands and work together on something. They don't have to agree on everything. That's part of the problem we have in our society today is if you listen to too much talk radio, you have an idea that you have to agree with the host on every single thing, and you don't. The zeitgeist of the moment doesn't give you the opportunity to say, you know what, if I agree with somebody 60%, that's a pretty high percentage. That in a democratic society where we all have opinions, 60% is, I'm more on their side than I'm against them. But anymore, the extremes of the political spectrum or the extremes of, sadly, even religious spectrums are you have to stand in line 100% of everything or you get kicked out of the club. And it's one of the reasons why here at KCC, we try not to be enforcers of theological orthodoxy on things that sincere Christians have had differences of opinion for 2,000 years. We have solid opinions, but you don't have to agree with us. So we're willing to join hands to serve the poor people of Kingsburg at CAPS with people who are Roman Catholic, even though we don't agree with them on the authority of the Pope. We agree with them that Jesus cares about poor people. That's more important. So we agree on more than 50% of things. We're not going to, start having statues of saints or, doing public confession and things like that. But at the same time, we agree with enough that we can work together. And I know there are other churches who would never do anything with Catholics because they feel that whatever 40% of disagreement is too much and excludes them working together. We just don't feel that that's true. There's a beauty in being a peacemaker. People who can actively promote peace rather than stirring up conflict. And there's some tremendous historical examples of the benefits of making a Christian peace. Probably the prime example that I can think of is the conduct of the United States in post-war Germany and post-war Japan. Now, Japan had attacked the U.S. fleet in Pearl Harbor without the declaration of war and had murdered innocent men, women. I don't know if there were children who died in Pearl Harbor, but certainly they murdered plenty of U.S. citizens and dependents throughout the scope of the war in the Philippines, in many of the conquered territories. And yet, at the end of the war, when the unconditional surrender was signed, the United States, as an occupying power, treated the Japanese people with respect and helped them rebuild their country and their economy. And because of that, Japan is one of the United States' best allies in East Asia. And that would be true of Germany as well. Rather than even impose the sort of punishing economic sanctions that followed the First World War in the Treaty of Versailles, the Marshall Plan not only rebuilt Germany, but rebuilt all of Western Europe that had been decimated during that war. And because of that, Europe is a very close ally of the United States of America. People still remember that the United States didn't punish those who were the wrongdoers in those conflicts. So there is something that comes in making constructive peace that can be generative of outcomes that really have the blessing of God, I feel, and really demonstrate the redemptiveness that the Lord's kingdom would have. Proverbs 16 says, when the Lord takes pleasure in anyone's way, he causes their enemies to make peace with them, sometimes through victory, other times through mediation, other times by saying, I was wrong. And this suggests that living righteously can lead to reconciliation, even with adversaries. If people recognize your character, and because of that, they're willing to trust you in terms of repairing damaged relationships or conflict. The last verse I want to reflect on is from Romans 12. It actually isn't from Proverbs, but it's just great advice from the Bible. First, it talks about revenge, not taking revenge, but it also gives us a prescription about how we should encounter other people, even people we don't agree with. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. So the Bible counsels letting things go, not taking revenge, which is not the same thing as allowing the justice system to mete out punishment, where it is the righteous thing and the just thing to do. But at the same time, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone, even if the other person doesn't want to live in peace. be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone, not just people who are on your side. May it be that the people on the side of the other person who has a problem with you say, okay, she acted righteously. I don't agree with it. I was on the other side, but that was a very classy way to deal with the conflict. All right. Hope you have a great week. Again, thanks for listening. Please tell your friends. I'm hoping that we start having friends from the Czech Republic who are listening to the podcast to kind of keep up with their English. And, we're finding friends kind of wherever we're going. So God bless you, and we'll talk to you next week.